Hello. We're going to continue with our percent applications, part 2, looking at some other ways that percents are used. We've talked about markups and markdowns, where markups are when a retailer buys items from a vendor or supplier and they buy it at a cost and they mark up the price, they increase it to sell to us, the consumers. Or a markdown would be like a sell, a discount, something that's 30% off. And we're trying to find how much that 30% is and what the new price is. So we were given the percent amounts and we were finding the amount of the markup or the amount of the markdown to get the new prices. Well, we're going to continue with that, but this time we're going to talk about the percent of change, the percent increase or the percent decrease in the price. So instead of being given the percent, we're going to have to find the percent. We're going to be given the dollar amount. The price increased by so many dollars. What percent increase was that? So let's jump right into it. You should have your notebook out, your journal out. Write this down. The percent of change equals the amount of the change divided by the original amount. This is a small formula, a little formula on how to calculate percent of change. You need to know it. It needs to be written in your journal. You need to use it when we're doing the examples and you're doing your homework, and you need to memorize it. So pause the video if you need to so you can write it down. Okay, let's put it to action. Angie received a raise at her job. Her hourly wage went from $8 to $9.50. What was the percent of change? Well, let's identify. Did her hourly wage, did it increase or did it decrease? Well, from $8 to $9.50, it of course increased. So we're going to be looking at a percent increase. I've got the formula up here to find the percent of the change. We find the amount of the change and divide it by the original amount. So we're going to take the amount of the change. So it changed from $8 to $9.50. So we're going to subtract that, and that will be divided by the original amount. What amount did you begin with? We begin with the $8. So there is our formula. The numbers are input into our formula. So we solve it. Subtract, and we get $1.50 divided by 8. Okay, now we get to do some division. Yay! And actually, it's even better because it's decimal division. Woohoo! All right. Well, you know how to divide by decimals. When you have it in fraction form, the top number is what goes inside the house. It's the one being split up. And the bottom number goes outside. I call this typo top in, top inside, bottom out, bottom number on the outside. Now we do our division. We are dividing by a whole number, so there's nothing to move here. So we can just bring our decimal point straight up to our answer line and then do the division. 8 doesn't go into 1, but it goes into 15 one time. Subtract. You have a 7, bring down a 0. 8 goes into 70 8 times, which is 64. Subtract. You have a remainder of a 6. Now, we don't stop here. We've learned that we can go ahead and keep adding zeros and dividing until we have, no remainder. So 8 goes into 60 7 times, which is 56. 4, so I'll bring down another 0, extend my line here, and 8 goes into 45 times. Now we have a 0 remainder. So we have this decimal number, 1,875 10,000ths. Okay, but we're wanting our answer to be a percent. So we have to change this to a percent. So I'm going to rewrite it down here. And we already know how to convert a decimal to a percent. Remember the DP? Decimal to percent means we would move 2 places to the right. So we're going to do that. 1, 2. So our new decimal would go here. And we would have 18 75/100%. Now at this stage, we're not going to worry about decimal parts. We're not going to have a decimal in our percent. We just want to round it to the nearest whole percent. So to do that, we look at this 18, it's in our ones place. That's our rounding place. And look at the digit to the right of it, the 7. The 7 is going to tell us how to round this 8, whether it's going to stay an 8 or if it's going to round up to a 9. And the rounding rules are, if the number is less than 5, then it remains the same. If the number is 5 or greater, then you round up to the next whole number. You round up one whole number. Since this is greater than 5, we need to round our 8 up to a 9, so we're going to get approximately 19%. So then we fill in our answer statement. The change in Angie's hourly wage was 19%. Now, there's one other thing you have to add to your answer statement. You need to identify if it's an increase or a decrease. So you could say the change in Angie's hourly wage was an increase of 19%. Okay. All right, let's try another one. Daniel lived 89 miles away from his workplace. He moved to a house that was only 51 miles away. What is the percent of change in the distance from Daniel's home to his workplace? Well, are we talking about a percent increase or a decrease? He started at 89 and he moved to 51, so that is a decrease. So this time it's a decrease. We don't do anything differently. We solve it the same way. We're going to use our little formula for the percent of change, and it's going to be the amount of change. So 89 minus 51 over the original. Where did he start at? He started at 89. So do your subtraction. And you get 38 over 89. Now we're ready to divide. So we set up our division problem. Top goes on the inside, which is 38. The bottom goes on the outside, which is 89. Okay, these are both whole numbers, so let's start dividing. 89 does not go into 38, so we're going to have to add a decimal and a 0. I'm going to bring this decimal up to my answer line so I don't forget it. Now, how many times will 89 go into 380? Going 4 times. 36, 3, 32, 35. Subtract. 24. Keep dividing. 240. It'll go in 2 times. Subtract. Bring down another 0. How many times will it go into 620? Let's try 6. Subtract. Okay, it looks like it's going to keep going. Let's go ahead and stop here for a moment. Let's look back at our previous example. When we were doing our division, we moved our decimal point 2 places to change it to a percent, 2 places to the right. And then we looked at the next digit to the right to determine how to round our percent. So we only needed 1, 2, 3 place values to find our percent, to write our percent. So that's a little shortcut right there. We only need to divide to the thousandths place in order to determine our percent. Sometimes when you're doing this division, it's going to keep going for a little while. But you don't have to do all of that work. Since we're rounding to the whole percent, then we just need to divide out to the thousandths place. So we can stop right here. So we have 426 thousandths. We're going to do our DP, move 2 places to the right. 1, 2. So our decimal is going to go here between the 2 and the 6. We're going to round to the whole percent. So that's our rounding place, the 2. Circle the 6. Since the 6 is greater than 5, we're going to round our 2 up to the next number, which is 43. So our answer is going to be 43%. So let's fill in our answer statement. The change in the distance from Daniel's home to his workplace was 43%. But we need to identify if it's a percent increase or a decrease. And in this case, it's a decrease, so we're going to write that. Was a decrease of 43%. And that's your answer. So I know as you're going through your homework or your test problems or your video check problems, you're going to rush through and you're going to put down 43%. And it's going to be wrong because you did not identify that it was a decrease. You can get away with that if it's an increase because it's a positive, but in this case it's a negative 43%. It's a decrease, and you have to identify it as a decrease. If you don't, it's wrong. Okay, your homework is your percent applications worksheet packet, which you should have with you. You're to do problem numbers 24 through 28. You're going to be finding the percent of change for different situations. And for each problem, it has a section for you to fill in the amount of the change, the original amount. And then it has a line for you to put the percent change. So it's not asking this time for an answer statement. It just wants you to fill in the percent change. Make sure you identify if it is an increase or a decrease. In this case, it's okay. You can put a plus sign for a positive increase. Or you can put a minus, a negative sign to represent a decrease. So that's fine in this case for you to do that. But if you were doing an answer statement, you would need to use the words increase or decrease. Okay, turn the page to do your video check problems. Okay, video check number 1, you're going to do these on your percent applications part 2 checklist. Video check number 1, Police Officer Bryant wrote 16 parking tickets last week, but only 10 tickets this week. What was the percent of change in the number of tickets he wrote? So you're going to do this the same way we did the examples. You're going to find your percent of change, do your division, you'll change your decimal number into a percent, write an answer statement, make sure you identify if it is an increase or a decrease. And then video check number 2, what does 100% increase mean? If you are increasing the price 100%, what does that mean? If you need to use a numerical example, put some numbers in an example, that's fine, go ahead and do so. And that's the end of this video.